You said you want it to be like Devon was. Well, what was Devon like?
Gosh, it's a super kind of beguiling county, and especially the plateau that we're on. We're just off Exmoor. I mean, it's basically Exmoor, so, but we're just off the edge of it. We can see Exmoor, we can see Dartmoor, and there is this geology called the Culm Measures, which is this deep clay landscape. The rivers will have had millions of salmon running up them at one point in time. And then, of course, slowly but surely, as agricultural improvements have mainly drained our landscapes, the loss of, even if it was shallow, peaty, rich, porous, spongy soils, little combes and woodland gullies which would have had rainforest in them, and then this patchwork kind of scrubland willow mosaic, much the same as Canwood, actually, much the same as yours, tussocky, as well as then these sort of more open uplands, which once again will have sported people's livestock in the summer, in the high summer when they were needing to cut hay on their home ground. So it would have been a fabulous place. And again, it's funny how you can restore land that's very recently been taken in a different direction. And it's very amazing how that land so quickly often returns faster than stuff that might have been cultivated for generations.
And the landscape surrounding you, I seem to remember, is pretty intensively managed. That electric green, year-round grass and quite tightly cropped hedges. It doesn't look enormously welcoming to curlews and other migrating birds that would, of course, have nested along that ridge in great abundance in the past. How do your neighbours feel about what you're doing on your land, and how do they feel about you generally? Someone whose whole livelihood is about rethinking landscapes at scale and putting that into practice.
Yeah. I think just to directly quote a neighbor of ours, he was like, I really like that guy, Toby, but he doesn't think anything like me. And I was like, yeah, that's very true. He has a facility that, looks after animals, which basically, it's called an AFU. So if they're sort of non-reactors for TB and stuff, they can still be managed to go into the food chain and that kind of thing. So it's all indoor. And so, there's an amazing kind of dichotomy between our farm and his. But I think, uh, yeah, it's a really tough one. I think farmers are really struggling at the moment in general, and the whole like livestock farming thing. There's a recent report that came out for the Food Farming and Countryside Commission. It showed how, livestock farming is one of the least profitable out there, and realistically, these landscapes can't really do much else. So then the opposing problem that we have now, which I've called like surreptitious land abandonment, is we've got the AD plants, and those AD plants are, just about mechanized calorific value into a big anaerobic digester. And again, it's like it's all a proportional thing. They're great on farm. They're brilliant if you've got, a lot of muck and you need to convert it into some sort of fertilizer, much better than buying stuff, from Italy or whatever, artificials. But the land take is vast. They can pay really good rents relative to what you could do as a livestockman. And I know livestock people in our area who have said that really they have kind of sucked a lot of the life out of the ability to kind of find good grazing, because of the fact that it's a totally mechanized system. You're just wanting 100% of what that land can offer to go straight into the AD. So that's an issue that we have locally, and I really, really hope that the penny drops soon. That you can't just keep throwing millions and millions of gallons of this stuff on the land, and for it not to go somewhere. It just goes straight into the rivers and obviously just churns off out to sea and is a massive problem for everybody downstream.
Toby, you're living your dream. You are transforming landscapes up and down the country. Your business is thriving. The project that I'm closest to is next door to me in Somerset, and I'm incredibly excited about it. What's your advice to someone? You or I get asked all the time, to meet young people who want to work in nature. What advice do you give young people who love rewilding in nature and they really want to devote themselves to it, but they don't quite know where to start?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I'm just completely baffled and excited by the next generation. So I have people in the studio who are, technically a generation below me now, and their commitment is like beyond mine. I thought a bit like you. I was like, wow, when I met you, I was like, holy moly, this guy is fully committed. And it's so inspiring to be around committed people who want to do, great things for nature recovery, great things for, a whole natural functioning of ecosystems. And so I just say to people who want to get into it, get out there on the ground properly, embed yourself in it deeply, go and plant trees, go and restore rivers, go and sow a wildflower meadow, go and, work with people like us on raising livestock and seeing what the realities of it are, and seeing the touch points that you have to do, and some of the stuff that is just old farming wisdom there's no need for anymore. You don't need to buy, especially if you've got good old breeds, you don't need to buy inputs to make them grow beautiful beef, for example. And so many of the linkages that I just love watching the penny dropping with and then you just say, and go for it, go into any kind of career, even if you don't have that ecological education, and change that little culture from within. And that's just such a powerful moment. So yeah, have at it.
And I think that's the point, isn't it? I mean, buying a piece of land is one thing for those lucky enough to have a property they can exchange or savings, but actually the ability to influence things for the benefit of nature is kind of ubiquitous. I mean, I've yet to meet someone who can't make a difference in the job that they're in, or who can't volunteer locally. I mean, here in the centre of London, you've got Citizen Zoo. Elliot Newton's been on the podcast. They've got hundreds of volunteers gathering on a Saturday to clean up, restore riparian habitat, and plop water voles back into rivers, and amazing things happening up and down the country. So volunteering and just participating, I think, is something that anyone can do. So please subscribe and tap the notifications bell so you don't miss new content. And to listen to the full podcast episodes, please search for Rewilding the World on whatever app you use to get your podcasts.